Hello and welcome to Raising Excellence. This is a special edition, and today we are only doing one thing, and that is a face reading with Dennis Eckart. I am a psychosomatic therapist, and a psychosomatic therapy is a study of the bones and muscles and tendons and everything that your body is made out of, and how you hold tension in your body, and what do different parts of your body say about what's going on inside your head. And so how what's inside is reflected on the outside, but also your potential, what you were born with, what you were brought into this world with. So today we have a gorgeous subject, our very own Dennis Eckart, and he will be lending me his face for a face reading so that we can all learn about what goes on the mind of Dennis. So welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here. I shall be your humble subject.
There you go. Perfect. All right. So in a face reading, I just made it so that it doesn't flip to me, so that everybody watching can see directly into your eyes and see what's going on for you. So the first thing that we look at in a face reading is, sorry, I'm just taking a quick look at your shoulders here, because when that face reading thing gets turned on, I start seeing things I've never noticed before. That's very interesting. Yeah. So what's going on with your shoulders? And I'm just going to mention that. I'll actually see if I can show you guys. Oh, I see. There we go. I'll see if I can show you guys here. I'll just turn that off for just a second. If you look at his shoulders, his right shoulder is sloping down quite a bit, but his left shoulder is raised up. So in psychosomatic therapy, what we do is we embody the posture, right? So the one right shoulders. Okay, so what I see going on here, Dennis, I'm going to put our little tag back on so that people coming in know what we're doing here. But what I see with the shoulder thing is it's almost like you're, hang on, I'm just trying to figure that out. So your right shoulder is held back. So your right side is your analytical, your masculine, your doing, your active side, the yang part of the yin and yang. And then your left side, this would be my left side, is the feeling, the receptive, the deep feeling or deep experiential kind of side, as opposed to the active side. So your right shoulder is sloping, right? Point to your right shoulder, just in case the camera is doing tricks. All right, I was right. So your right shoulder is sloping down and your left shoulder is up. So what would that do in my body? If my right shoulder was sloping, it would be like if I was to pull back my arm and punch somebody, if I was holding anger in my left shoulder, that's how. Then my left shoulder, hang on, I'm going to unpin you for a second just to unpin video. So if I was holding my attention in this, sloping this, so that would be like, pulling the shoulder back, right? So almost like getting ready for an attack or getting ready for a punch or getting ready for action. And so it's interesting that it's your left shoulder that's the active one in this, and your right shoulder is sloping. That could also point, and I'm going to put you back on screen here. Just give me 1 second. Excuse me. That could also point to feminine, masculine imbalance, like your feminine may be stronger than your inner feminine, the part of you that's inside, that's feminine. Maybe a little stronger than your inner male, but let's continue looking at your face. So the second thing, and your camera seems to be sloping down. Can you pull it back up? Because now I can't see the very top of your head.
Oh, sorry. Sure.
Just a little up. Yeah. I'm sorry I'm not muting myself, but we've had some muting issues, and I'm just going to move through this. Okay, so I see your face, and can you take your hair off your face and show me your forehead so I can see? I know
Sure.
you're wearing headphones, so that might be
Yeah.
challenging.
Maybe
I
I
want
can
to
get them
see
back.
your full forehead situation.
Or, well, if I
And
take
can
them
you
off for
show
a
me?
second, then you want me to pin my hair back?
Yes, yeah, pin, or at least the forehead part of your hair.
Hold a second.
Because then I'll be able to see. Now we'll talk about your hair some more. Yeah, perfect. Okay, so I see that. So okay, so we have a very tall face, right? It's not a wide face, it's a tall face. So what does a tall face signify in face reading? It means high ideals, reaching up, making a difference in the world. So those things would be really important to you. And at the top of your head, your hairline, I see there's a bit of a jagged edge going on there. And people might say, oh, that may be because of the dreadlocks. But I would say, nay, that's not because of the dreadlocks. I would say that's something you were born with. So a jagged edge in the hairline indicates, indicates a bit of a rebellious nature, going against the flow, maybe breaking rules. A young person with a jagged hairline would probably not adhere to their parents' plan for their future, would have their own ideas, their own plan for the future. And now that combined with the really, really high ideals. And it's funny because I know some things about your life, right? I know that as a young person, you went across the world and made a difference in a country that was very far away from your homeland.
That is true.
And that really does reflect in your face. Sorry, being rebellious, being bucking the trend, doing something totally different, but yet something so idealistic and so reaching at such high level for something greater. You know, you didn't want to be a plumber. You wanted something greater for yourself. And that's really what your face talks about. Now, at the bottom of your face, your chin, despite the little bit of hair that you grew there, I can still see that there's a bit of a triangle going on. But it's an interesting triangle because I also see, can you turn your head a little bit so I can see your jawline? Yeah, do you clench your teeth at night?
Yeah, well, I'm not sure right now, but I used to, and it's quite probable, I guess.
So
I
yeah, so when
used
you're
to, and
stressed out, you clench your teeth.
yeah, because I remember many years ago when I still used to go to doctors and dentists, they even gave me like one of those plastic things that you put in your mouth at night to prevent that. But then I guess you're chewing on plastic, so I never really
Sorry,
bothered to
we
use
have
it
a
too much.
small peanut gallery here from Autonomy, and Pam Batchelder says that there's nothing wrong with plumbers. And there's nothing wrong with plumbers, but plumbers don't typically have a really, really tall, idealistic type face that this gentleman is holding. I mean, some plumbers do. I mean, there are different ways of changing the world and making the world a better place. I just think it's interesting that Dennis comes with these high ideals and with this rebellious nature, and then he leaves his family behind and goes way across the world to make a serious difference. So in the chin, what I'm seeing in the chin, which is an interesting thing combined with your so this part, the bone, is called the ascending ramus, but it's the jaw, you know, the where the people have TMJ kind of thing, that where your jaw hinge happens. So the ascending ramus is the bone that goes up, but just at the bottom where the actual jaw hinges, that's where a lot of people hold tension. And so that's a wonderful point of stubbornness in your body, right? So when you're really digging your heels in, when you're being really stubborn and really, really like trying to hold on to the status quo, maybe, even though the world is moving around you and you're still holding on to something, that's what happens with this. I also clench my teeth at night sometimes. So I also can relate. And for me, because I do that, it happens sometimes just because I'm stressed out or because, you know, I have a headache or something. But with you have that triangular chin underneath all that little goatee there. There's a triangular chin going on, right? And what a triangular chin tells me is that you are pretty easily influenced, but then what you do is you make it up with the stubborn jaw, right? So the young boy who was easily influenced by others, and maybe other people made up his mind for him sometimes, becomes a man who develops stubbornness and really like strong holding on to reality, holding on to whatever he believes in. And that's what we have on your face there, the stubbornness blended with the flexibility, which in a strong man, it looks really good because it's a balance of sorts, right? It's definitely a balance. So then I want to look at your eyes. And so the whole area, so, oh, well, no, I skipped the forehead. We can't skip the forehead. That's just wrong. Tyler was asking me about the forehead earlier today. Let's not skip the forehead. Your forehead is fairly smooth, or maybe that's the camera. Can you lean in and show me some wrinkles? Is there wrinkles? There are no wrinkles. There are no wrinkles. There are no lines. There's one little line. Oh, but I see that brow arch sticking. Okay. Okay, so the brow arch, this part, this is your vision, right? Your brow, your eyebrows, and it have to do with your vision. Interestingly, your eyes have to do with the heart. But this bone here and how far it sticks out in the has to do with your observation. So the bottom part of the forehead is the observation lobe, and the observation has to do with, you know, looking out, looking into the future, but also being on the lookout for danger or stuff like that. Yours is not terribly prominent, but your observation is well developed, so that's nice. The middle part of the forehead is your memory. And I would like to see clearly both sides of your face, like the temple area. So can you like rub that or push the hair back so in case it's like...
I did.
Okay. Okay. And the other side? And that little dread just there sticking up. It's cute. Okay. So I see. So sometimes on the temples we see some signs of circular thinking or living in the past or allowing voices from the past to control your present. I don't really see a lot of that in your forehead personally. I see a pretty clear forehead. I see the high idealism in your forehead again. I also see great amount of imagination. You know, the top part is the imagination and well-balanced imagination. You know, you have an idea and then you seem to reach for it and actually achieve it. You're not, you know, you don't battle it out in your head for months and years before you do something. You're pretty gung-ho in doing things. Excuse me. So that's wonderful and that's interesting. Your eyebrows are vivacious. They're well pronounced. They're well developed, and they're arching in a nice way. They're not imbalanced in any way. So I think that your eyebrows just show your, you know, how you like to enjoy life or experience life to the fullest, and how you throw yourself into projects and ideas with the fullness of your being. And dark eyebrows are also a benefit because people listen and pay attention to you more if you have well developed eyebrows. It's a true fact. I've tested it on myself. Going down from the eyebrows, we have the beautiful eyes of Mr. Dennis Eckart. And your eyes are your heart chakra. So that whole area right there, eyes and under the eyes, that's your heart chakra, and how you're expressing through your heart chakra and how you're accomplishing things. Now, there's a little bit of swelling on your bottom eyelids that I see. And so that tells me that you're experiencing some heightened emotions lately. Maybe some held back tears or something like that, some emotional stuff that you maybe haven't dealt with fully yet. Because there's just a little bit of swelling on the bottom eyelids, but you don't have any sort of residual long-term holding of energy or stuck energy in the heart. It seems to be very flowy, and you seem to be expressing the essence of your heart really well in life. So that all I see is a little bit. Can you squint for me a little bit so I can see the wrinkles?
I close my eyes?
No, squint.
Like this?
Yeah. Okay, interesting. Okay. So emotionally, what your wrinkles tell me is that emotionally you do attach a big a lot to negative experiences. Like you get emotionally attached to negative experiences and really like carry them with you for a while. Whereas on the analytical side, on the masculine side, you're very happy-go-lucky and nothing really worries you, and you are able to let go of negative experience just as easily as positive. But on the emotional side, there seems to be a little bit, and maybe that has to do with your shoulder. You know, that anger that you're holding back there on the left-hand side. It maybe it's reflected because the wrinkles here like seem to be pointing down a lot. So I know you
Mm.
have a lot of well-developed smile lines, but there are those few. So there's some attachment to negative past experiences.
Mm. I was wondering if the shoulder maybe relates also to an incident that happened many years ago, must have been about 20 years ago, where you might even see like the scar right here.
So that's when you started
So
being angry about that something.
no, I'm not sure. Like I'm not sure about the anger. I'm not sure I'm fully aware of the anger. But what was interesting always to me was that when I was a child, for a couple of years I was writing with my right hand, and then for like a short while I could write with both. And then that was like 6, 7, 8 years, and then I would switch to left. So I'm left-handed right now, and some things I do well, like writing. Obviously, I do like a lefty, but then there are other things like I don't know, like if I take like a hockey rack, or if I, like holding a shotgun, or so, like I would do it like a right-hand person. And even like in martial arts, like my stance would be with the left hand to the front, which is like the regular stance. So that's something I noticed in myself, that I do many things, if not most of them, like a right-handed person, but I will write with the left.
So there are many different types of anger. Maybe it's not the type of anger that you're thinking of. I mean, I see you grasping at energy. I see you pulling back with that energy, and I see you ready to throw that energy. Is it going to be an attack that's going to kill people? Maybe not. Maybe it's just some words that you're holding on and you're not expressing them. Like it doesn't have
Mm,
to be righteous anger, or it doesn't have to be murderous anger for you to experience some hold held back emotions. And if you're saying
mm,
that your left shoulder had something to do some issues 20 years ago, I would really take a deep look at the emotional issues you were experiencing 20 years ago to see maybe what was going on the psychosomatic level.
mm,
Like were you challenged with the way you couldn't express yourself? Were you challenged with languaging? Were you unable to communicate? Because this is this whole shoulder thing, right? That's also a throat chakra thing, where your expression is like, your expression comes from your solar plexus or your sacral, through the heart, out your throat, but also out your arms in doing things,
mm,
right? You're familiar with doing things, you building
mm.
things, doing things, right? So some of our listeners would like to know more about the scar on your neck, and maybe provide a little bit more interpretation on
Oh,
that.
well, it really was an accident. So, but it almost decapitated me. Like it was just running at high speed at night with a bicycle and not seeing, um, how you say, like a cable, like it was a wire that was across the road. So that threw me down. It was just that. But, but that kind of was a marking moment, because I would just jump up and jump on the bicycle and not even look at it. And because I was going to catch a bus with the bicycle, and I jump on the bus, and then it's only like a few minutes after the adrenaline went down, like I actually noticed what was happening, and then that blood was running down my chest and so on. But that was like, it was noticeable, like it was an event that I remember until today. And so I feel like, if not even a blade of grass grows without reason, then things, especially things like that, happen also for a reason. So I've been pondering upon that like a
So
lot.
what was
And that,
going on with your communication at that time? Where were you? What were you doing? How were you communicating with others?
that's a good question. I must have been like, what, I can't even remember how old I was exactly. It must have been like 17, 18, 19,
So
something
just
like
before you
that.
left to Brazil?
I would have been in Brazil at least once or twice before. Yeah, I was in the middle of my trips to Brazil, and maybe like about 3, 4 years before going to Jamaica. And one thing I noticed also is, with the shoulders, it is it's not sure if it's a weak point or like, but it's something that I recognize, that I'm aware of, that if I'm under stress or under pressure, like this is where I notice it first. My shoulder will go up, and I will have tension like in my neck, in my shoulders. So that is one of the things that I figured out, that if I'm aware of it, that can kind of signal to me that, oh, things getting tough, I need to relax, I need to calm down a little bit. So it's probably the area of my body that I can recognize that I'm under pressure, under stress first. And that of course affects also, how high my shoulders are. But yeah, but I was thinking that maybe, that would be like one of the incidents I remember. There's others,
It's
like,
definitely a throat chakra problem, and it's definitely on the emotional side, on the feminine side, on the
yeah.
feeling side. I mean, if you think about you're considering leaving Germany for a different country to live there long term at that time, it would make sense that you were emotionally fearful or uncomfortable with it, and especially where it comes to talking about it or expressing it. Maybe I'm just guessing here, but maybe your parents, maybe it was difficult to talk to your parents about how you're not planning to stay in Germany for the near future.
Yeah. Well, yeah, communication and with parents, I think definitely. Yeah. And also like a big thing which comes through it at other modalities that we talked about just, recently, in order of self-evaluating and self-discovering. And they point out also that in terms of the emotional side, it's something that is rather suppressed, or like I don't have ease expressing my emotions. So yeah, that would definitely go hand in hand with what you would have been saying.
You know, it's interesting because I heard this story from the shaman during spiritual gathering one time. And it was a very interesting story, and I kind of see that happening on your face. So if you imagine our life being like a path, when we're walking down this path and we have this backpack with us and we're carrying this backpack, right? And every time something happens to us, we decide whether to put it in the backpack or whether to leave it where it happens and just keep the experience with us, right? In our society, a lot of people end up filling the backpack with all the bad experiences and leaving all the good experiences where they are, right? And then they get really tired because they're constantly carrying this backpack of bad experiences, right? And bad experiences way more, they have more detriment to your health and all that. So considering maybe how you could encourage yourself to let go of your attachment to the past where it comes to emotional things. And maybe it's a search for perfection because you're a bit of like your high ideals, your stubborn nature, and the flexibility that you bring to the world as well. They all would kind of coax you into perfection, right? You have to be great at, you have to do it right, not be great at, maybe more like do it right. And when it comes to communication or when it comes to negative experiences, maybe what you do is beat yourself up over how you could have done something better in the past, and maybe for things you can't change anymore. Things that are in the past that will never come out of the past, but you're still thinking about it and you're still attached to it, right? And I'm just interpreting the wrinkles on your face right now because
well, the way to really change it would be to go back in the past in that situation and change my perspective about it,
or empty the backpack and fill it with the good experiences that you're experiencing right now and carry that around.
Yeah.
And see if you can leave at least some of those negative baggage behind. Let's move on to your nose. Can you touch the tip of your nose for me like this? Is it soft or is it hard? Do you feel cartilage or do you feel fleshiness?
Well,
It's fairly
I'm not
soft,
sure
it seems like.
I'm not sure what to compare it to. Yeah, it's not really like hard. That's the first time somebody asked me that question.
Can I see your profile for a second? Okay. So, the divot that, so we all have a little bit of a bump or a divot here in the base of the nose where the eyes meet and the brows meet. And some people have it so that it's a straight line. So basically, almost their nose almost starts in the forehead. And some people have it so their nose starts deep in here and like has a big divot. For you, it's fairly balanced. So I see you having a divot here, but also there is like a bit of a, I don't know how to say that. It's not a bump. It's a reverse bump. A bit of a hollow, but it's not too much. And so from that, I can see that, you can speak from the heart and you can speak from the head, and both of the ways of communicating are available to you. So you're not cut off from your head. There's a clear channel of energy going from your solar plexus to your crown chakra. So you can clearly communicate from the higher levels, but you can also clearly communicate your heart's desires. So it's not the expressing yourself outwards that's an issue here. And so especially when you think about the wrinkles, it's not what you've said or you haven't said. Maybe it's what you're thinking. I'm not sure what you're thinking, so I'm just not even going to speculate. I just see what it's not, right? And can you look up a little bit for a second? Look at the ceiling. Okay. So I see your nostrils are being well developed. That's good. Well-developed nostrils. There's nothing wrong with your nose. It's a strong nose. It's so you have a strong ego. You're very self-confident. You know who you are and you know who you're not. So that's really good. You communicate from the heart well enough so you're not cut off from your feelings and emotions. Which is good for a German. No, I made a German joke. I couldn't resist it. I tried to censor myself twice before I said it. Okay, I'll stop. I'll be serious, honestly. Okay, so yeah, and the width of your nose is a healthy width. It's not too wide, it's not too narrow. So I see that good. With the cheeks are a great mystery because, for example, the cheeks, there was a lot of discussion when I was studying face reading at our school about how to write about the cheeks in the manuals, because the cheeks have a changeable nature. The cheeks talk about your interaction. So it's still the heart chakra maybe, or maybe solar plexus, depends on the type of cheek, which is what makes it tricky. But they also talk about how you interact with the world on a daily basis. And sometimes they talk about your career. Like, for example, yourself, your cheeks have a nice hollow in here. They're very well developed, pretty chiseled, and they're pretty high up. So that tells me that they're solar plexus cheeks. So that means they talk about your interaction with the world on a career basis. I don't know, because what we think of as career is sort of so linear, and I know that in Autonomy we don't talk about career in that way. We think of career as basically exploration of projects and whatever we're doing. So, but it's still it's about ambition. It's about reaching the high potential, the high ideals that you sport so well. And it's about working hard toward it and really experiencing that sacrifice. Whereas chicks like mine, I'm just going to pin my video for 1 second so people can see, because it's a very difference. See, chicks like mine, all chubby like this, they're like a second set of boobs. They're all chubby. They're nice and soft. And they talk about nurturing. Yeah, sure, I can have a career, but I really want to help people. I really want to nurture. I really want to love them. I want to put them against my breast and cuddle them. And that's what my cheeks talk about. And that's probably why I started Raising Excellence. But today is all about Dennis.
I do enjoy your nurturing.
Well, and you know what? And together we make like the six of us. We make such a good balanced team with all these different benefits. So moving on from your ambitious cheeks, your straightforward nose. Oh yeah, the softness or the hardness. So the softness or the hardness of the tip, it talks about how you communicate with others. So whether you're soft and cautious and you always wrap your words in cotton to make them all soft and so people don't get offended. Like Pam. I bet you Pam's nose, super soft. Like a marshmallow right at the tip there. Let us know, Pam. But your nose has a nice balance of cartilage and soft tissue. So you can soften your words if you want to. You can be a little bit more approachable. You can be a little softer. But you also are not afraid to speak directly to the point and be very, very strict and direct. Right? And when I see your lips, that is repeated again. So everything, you know, a lot of the things that happen in our face, it sort of correlates, right? Your bottom lip, much more pronounced than your top lip. Why is that? Because you're very comfortable speaking about yourself, talking back, like not necessarily speaking, but standing up for people, standing up for you, for what you believe in, right? Like that direct expression. Now your upper lip has to do with the more softer side of you, has to do with your creativity, your sensuality, your intuition. The little divot here is the intuition. So your intuition, I see it very well developed, nice, solid intuition, direct communication with the divine. but your upper lip is a little bit withdrawn. Now everybody has the same size lips. There's nobody that has bigger lips or smaller lips. That's just an illusion. The size of your lips depends on the amount of tension that you hold in your lip. In the little tiny muscles, they're vertical muscles right here, ding, 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 ding. And all those vertical muscles, they're the ones who hold your lip small. See, I could have a small lip too, but I don't, because I massage them out. I make sure when I realized that my upper lip was small because I had tension in my creativity here. This is all about creativity, sacral, right? And I realized that I needed to express that creativity some more. I started painting again. I started writing more. I started massaging my lips and being more kind to myself, you know, like that's not necessarily sex sensuality, but, you know, long baths with bubbles and being really kind to myself and self-care. And my lip grew magically within a couple years. And now my lips are more or less the same size. Depends on the day, on how. But everybody's lips are the same size. So just work on that tension and that creative expression. Now I want to massage it. Do this with me. Grab your lip. Come on. You can do this. And just squeeze enough so you feel that little muscle where the tension is. See, there's tiny little muscles with tension. Don't be afraid to grab a chunk. There you go. Yeah, like that. And just release that tension all throughout your lip. Isn't that interesting? You didn't know you had tension in those tiny muscles. And then when you squeeze one, it almost feels like a big muscle when it has a tension in it, right?
And you can feel even like by the pain or by the, because I did sometimes I use acupressure points like on points like on my hands, on other parts of the body, like the few that I know, to kind of release tension even in the shoulders. And I kind of learn a little bit how to feel by the amount of pain that they cause me, if there's tension or how much tension there is. So
and how much tension was there in your lip?
Yeah, I can feel, definitely. I feel some pain there when I squeeze it. I know.
Yeah, I did too. So when you squeezed your lips, we went all around, and then you went, and then your shoulders relaxed. Did you notice that? Like,
No,
so just squeezing these few muscles here
Well, I
allowed
wasn't
your
paying attention to
shoulders
it.
to release some tension. You can look in the when you view the video again. So with the hair, we kept getting to we went through the lips, we went through the nose, we went through the cheeks, and now we're getting to this little goatee of yours. Oh, can I see your throat a little bit? Oh, okay, nice. So see, there's nothing obstructing your heart's expression, like from your heart chakra through the throat. I don't see, I didn't really examine your chest, but I don't see anything. I see just smooth skin. I see clear communication, right? So the only thing that may be stopping your expression is you going, right? Or you holding back or holding on to things that maybe you don't need to.
Yeah.
So whenever we grow hair, like on our face or on our back or, somewhere else, it's all to bring sensitivity to that area. So your chin is your determination, especially where you have the hair. It's directly on top of your determination. Can I see your profile again?
My profile?
Yeah. Either way, it doesn't matter. Okay. Other side, because maybe it's easier to the other side. So you can go farther on the other side. So your nose is leading the charge, right? So your solar plexus is leading the charge. Your determination comes just shortly after the nose. So sometimes you're leading with your ego. I don't know how that appears for you, because I know you do a lot of work for yourself, but it is like from your profile, it seems that you are leading with your ego. But the little hair that you did grew on your brain, or on your brain, on your on your chin, on your beard, I was thinking. The little hair, it actually increases your determination, the sensitivity of your determination, increases your focus and your attention on the determination. And so the big question comes with the hair, because you have these beautiful dreadlocks. What do we know about the hair? Well, you have long hair. It touches your shoulders. So a hair is
It goes even further.
goes even further. But it is probably down to your ankles if you were to magically like straighten it out. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
Because it's
then
all kinky inside the dreads, right? So what we know about the hair is this: when your hair touches your chest. So basically, it's like an antenna, right? And that's why a lot of women, when women have like a ugly breakup with a guy, they'll chop off all their hair, right? Because some people say that hair picks up emotional baggage, picks up emotional charge, and it sort of holds it there. So if you go through a negative experience, you might want to chop it all off to get rid of it, right? So not feel it anymore. But in normal times, the hair that grows out of your head and grows and touches your heart chakra area, which is underneath your shoulders here, all the way up to the bottom of the breastbone, basically. That means you're connecting your head with your heart. So it's basically like what the Heart Math Institute talks about, being in coherence. This assists you in being in coherence with your heart. So your brain and your heart work together toward one common goal. Now, I did ask the psychosomatic therapist yesterday about dreadlocks, and they said that the hair is kinky, so that impedes the flow of information. You know, it makes it so it's like having really, really tight curly hair. The energy doesn't really flow easily back and forth, but it gets stuck in the dreads. But it's still information. A lot of men with short hair wouldn't even have access to that connection without the hair touching their chest, right? It's just a different experience. I personally, I feel very different with short hair. I feel very disjointed, and I don't know how to explain it. But some people prefer to not have the connection going. So I mean, it's a personal thing, right?
Yeah.
I personally think your dreads look great.
Thank you.
But yeah, but that would be what I have to say about your face reading. I mean, I haven't seen your ears, but
Shall I take off the earphone for a second?
then you wouldn't be able to hear me. Do you really want to know?
Sure,
How
yeah.
about okay, well, take it off. But the 2 ears are different, so let's see.
Okay.
Interesting. Can I see the left one, the other one? Can I see the other one again? The first one?
Sure.
Okay. Okay. Did you have some challenging experiences with your father when you? Oh, did you have some
Okay.
challenging experiences with your father when you were growing up? Your right ear
Some?
seems a little bit smaller than your left, so it seems like you stopped listening to your father at a younger age than your mother. Your left ear is a little bit more developed. Has had chance to grow a little bit more. It's a little bit larger, or it seems a little bit larger. And so I would say that, you know, your there were some challenges, and at one point you decided that your dad had no more to add, and you just stopped listening to him. And my guess was at about 12 to 15 years old. But I'm not there in person, so it's hard to see on video the sizing. You know what I mean? I'm kind of guessing.
So there was so much trouble going on at that time and even before. And at one point, I actually made I made a conscious decision to literally stop talking to my father. So I would
How old were you?
completely. it was, it must have been 14, 15, 16. So, well, I would, yeah,
So
about
12 to
that.
15 was super accurate, hey?
Yeah, it is. No, definitely within that time period, because even like things were going bad like before and even after it as well. But at that particular point, like I stopped talking literally like for 1 year. Like I wouldn't say a word, because and that
And you lived
for
in the
him
same
would,
house.
yeah. So that was no
Interesting.
hello, goodbye, good morning, and that was like, yeah, like a clear cut of communication. When things went bad, then screaming and all kind of something was going on, then I would literally just shut down and just look, because I couldn't in that moment, I couldn't run or go anywhere else. So if there were moments when I was cornered, then I would just completely like shut off and just look and stare and withdraw, inside, as well as I would withdraw like on the outside, like the, for example, like I would not be like somebody to to shout or scream or go on bad, but I would be somebody to withdraw like in my room or go train, or stay out and just focus on training and stay away from trouble that way, and try to shut off the trouble, or even like the emotional outbursts that I don't, and I recognize that even more now, that I don't want to deal with, and that I don't like, like high emotional outbursts, and especially negative ones. So that's not something I want to.
So where does the accident where you cut your neck come in? Like what age and what was going on with your mother and father at that point?
Well, they divorced eventually.
How old were you when
And
they divorced?
wow, it must have been 17, about that.
And how
Yeah,
old were you when your
17,
throat was
18.
cut?
It must have been like right at that time too. I don't remember exactly. Like I'm
So,
not sure if I can
so
find it,
don't you
but
think that, I mean, thinking about the injury that it was, right? It was like a cut, like a clear cut on your throat chakra. Don't you think that
mm.
that was maybe had something to do with the cutting off of communication? Like your parents divorced and then you haven't spoken to your dad for a few years, but this is it. This is like now you don't ever have to.
No, well, it was for 1 year I cut it off, right? And then those things happen. Eventually, they would divorce, and then there was like a phase after. But like for me, like things would switch around after. So after they were divorced, and then there was still like a phase of a few years where it was kind of like strange. But then like afterwards, and like now, or like when after a few years I was in Jamaica, and so like every time I went back, so for me communication was better, and our relationship is great right now. So it would switch for me, which is interesting to observe, because like even the memories that I have, about childhood or my upbringing, they're not negative ones. And it's interesting to see that, to compare it with my sister or my brother, for example, who would have lived through, at least from that view, like a similar experience. So they had like different perspectives, at least like in the past. So, but I was like, like all of this stuff, like I was there, I witnessed it too, I was part of it, but I somehow have a perspective of not letting that put me down, or like holding on like a grudge, or holding on bad feelings to that. But it's something, it happened, but I try to kind of to use it to make that not happen to me or my children
Yeah,
or
but
anybody
that's
else around me.
today's Dennis. This is the man
Hmm.
Dennis. What about the 17-year-old boy who got his throat cut and didn't even notice?
Well,
Like that's this. I don't know.
the,
As a psychosomatic therapist, it's very interesting for me. Do you cut your throat? Seriously, cut your throat? You didn't notice. You got on the bus. You still didn't notice, and this was going around the same time as your parents' divorce, like within like a few months. So I think that's a very interesting thing, and maybe if you meditate on it, there may be more there that
hmm.
you would unpack.
Well, the huge cut that came at that time. Huh. So that is like for
You don't
the.
have
It
to
seemed like.
be if it's getting too personal. I'm just
Mm,
saying we're still like streaming.
yeah, sure. Well, how I'm gonna say it. Well, there was a huge cut. Um, the I feel like the first 17 years of my life are pretty much prepared, um, for a vastly different way of life than the one I eventually took on. And it was at that time, yeah, that really like everything like turned around, not like a little bit, but literally like 180 degrees. So from when before I would like literally prepare myself like consciously, to leave my family, take on a new name, and go do something, basically like join the French Foreign Legion and be there and dedicate my life just to that. And it would even go so far that at that time also, and 1 2 years, yeah, 17 18 19, that I was how would you say, dodging the military service, which was obligatory at the time in Germany, because I thought it was too weak, and they were too, the the drilling they would do there was like, I didn't think it was what I like. I wanted more than that. I wanted to be, you know, in like a special task force unit. And then I figured out, I heard about the French Legion, and it's like, oh, that allowed me to cut off completely my whole family life and to renounce my parents, take on a new name. Nobody would know what would happen, and they break you physically, mentally, put you together how they want, and then you just be like a killing machine basically for some, people. So that was the path I literally was on for almost the first 2 decades of my life. And I started be interesting that, like, from very
But you were
early.
already
And
doing capoeira back then.
so that was the break. So at that point, what kicked in was capoeira, and also me traveling to Brazil at first. And at that point of like 17 18, so things started to shift like considerably. So and people who would, like, go to school with me and know like what I was interested in and what I was like looking forward to, they couldn't believe, like, that I ended up in Jamaica, like working, doing
So
peace work
essentially,
with
instead
civilian
of
children.
joining the foreign legion and letting them brainwash you, you
Mm.
created your own legion and you brainwashed yourself.
Yeah, and what was amazing that later on, but that's the difference, is like that literally those experiences that I sought, um, I got them. Like, life provided me with those experiences and with the kind of training and drills and different things, but life provided me with those experiences from a much more maybe aware or conscious, like, so I didn't have to hurt anybody or kill anybody, but I would still undergo what I was really like longing for at those young years, but just in a whole different context. So that was really amazing for me to meditate upon that and to see, wow, that actually I asked for that for years. That was, that's what I was longing for, and I got it. And even like in the Amazon jungle, and like, and it's like, wow, that's like, and I don't have to, I don't have to hurt anybody, I don't have to kill anybody, I don't have to renounce my family and change my name and be somebody, not like just a machine. So I can do it like as a conscious being. So that was really something marvelous that I recognize. So, and you pointing that out, that was like the shift that happened when I was 17 18 19. So that's like when things really started to turn around. And yeah, so in the end, yeah, like, instead of going to France, I went to Jamaica. So to say, ended up there. Mm.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, how do you feel about your face reading? Do you have any questions? I mean, we went through every feature of your face. The ears are always very troublesome. That's why I was like, oh, let's skip the ears. And
Mm.
then you wanted me to show, so I had to go there.
Yeah. No, like, I really, well, I must say, um, well, like, while we were talking, just like a bunch of things just, like, stood out tremendously. Not only with what I would have, mm, is not what I would have gotten out of other, exercises, even those that we did recently, that would, characterize me based on my behaviors, basically, or my behavior patterns, or um like even the astrology charts and so on. They would like tell me a lot, and a lot of what you said actually like hit the nail like right on the head. So that was truly amazing. So, but I couldn't not I couldn't relate to it only comparing it with other ways of reading me, so to say, but also like my personal experiences really were reflected in what you said. So I think I have quite a few things to chew upon. So I'm already looking forward listening to it again. And yeah, especially like with the emotional parts and the leap in. So I'm gonna follow that and just see what happens, because that's what you said and the tips that you gave. It matches, you know it sounds logic to me, and it makes sense to the little understanding that I have already. And it pointed out some things that, for example, with the shoulder, that I'm aware of, but it brought more, how would you say, it brought more detail, and it gives me an opportunity to focus on it even more and to address it. So
Yeah,
I'm really
whenever
looking
you
forward.
see somebody in a specific position, put your body in that position and then exaggerate it. And then you'll
Hmm.
see, like, I mean, in order to do that, I have to really, like, right?
Hmm.
So, what is
Hmm.
this? Like, No, I'm not angry.
Mm. That's
Like,
true.
because how else am I going to, like, I mean, otherwise it's kind of awkward. Like, you know what I mean? But this emotionally makes sense, you know? And maybe
Because
you,
it's
oh, but you know what else? So there
mm,
are muscles, the tiny muscles around your lips. They're in other places in your face, and I mean you have to be pretty delicate around the eyes. But there are certain, like right here, there's like a point of tension as well, and then you can
mm,
grab some skin here and find some tiny little muscles all around your eyebrows,
mm,
and in here in the nose, and even like grabbing the little bit of skin at the arch of the nose. All of
mm,
that can find tiny hidden tense muscles.
yeah. And not even around the eyebrows, there's a lot of acupuncture points as well. So years ago, also like I was into like acupuncture points, and I did some, like self massage techniques for the face, but it was more on the side of the head in here. But yeah, it kind of brings back memories of those, and of course gives me more detail on what to focus on, and I'm really excited about it. As to me, it seems logical that the inside reflects the outside. So wanting to advance and go deeper within myself to really understand who I am and how I can better myself and raise my excellence and raise my potential that I have, of expressing who I truly am, and influence others through that as well, means that if I manipulate the outside, my physical being, then it surely will have to have some kind of
Well,
resonance
it's
on the
a
inside as well.
full circle, right? You can manipulate the emotional, you can manipulate the spiritual, you can manipulate the physical, or you can manipulate the mental, right? And they all feed into each other. So, oh, I think my internet connection. There is a storm going on. It comes back.
Mm.
Okay. The storm outside is affecting my
So
internet connection. So yeah, so they all connect. So you can read a book to assist with the issues. You can do a physical exercise to assist with the issues. You can do meditation, or you can do another spiritual practice, right? Everything will assist. So massaging is just one thing. Painting a painting is another for that
mm.
particular thing.
What came to my mind also when you were talking about emotion, so is that on one hand, as I said, I'm not really very good, or I don't really express emotions. So sometimes people even will like call me cold or think I'm cold, because I don't readily express my emotion. That's difficult for some people because even when like in really like challenging situations, or like sometimes even traumatic situations, I won't be the one like screaming around or expressing my emotions, but I really will, observe and on the outside be calm and not go, not go with the flow of screaming, crying, or whatever. But I kind of, and I think that relates back to the situation that I mentioned earlier, even with my father, because I learned to really, just throw a blank, like with my face, and just, stare and basically just be there physically, but like completely shut off. So I think that might, relate back to that. So yeah, I'm kind of
Wonderful.
excited of finding out like what's going to happen if I work on my upper lip. And it's something
Perfect.
also, like, from my parents' side, it was not something, and they even would come up with it by themselves, which was interesting. It's like, oh yeah, when they see us with our children right now, like, like hugging, or something like that, was not something that we used to, do in our family. Um, we like, so it's interesting to see how that probably also would have influenced me, not being exposed to overly, expressing emotions or love to your children, like through actions. And yeah, so those are some thoughts I had also when you were talking about the emotional side.
Nice. Awesome. Well, it was a
Mm.
pleasure doing a face reading for you today, Dennis. Thank you very
Wow,
much
thank
for
you.
everybody who's still paying attention. And anybody else can catch the replay to listen from the beginning. And I really appreciate you. Let's close this out for today, and we'll be back on Monday.
Thank you so much.